you're in your car and a lot of times you're texting in and they're getting your dog and taking it in and it's sort of happening without you. So I need you to work on body handling with your puppy and dog. Preferably it's feeding the dog and touching the dog and teaching the dog. There's a lot of value in you touching them. I would love it if that could happen on an elevated surface. So if it's a small dog on leash, right? Leash around your shoulders, dog is up like on a show table, do a couple things and put them down. Bigger dogs, you need a grooming table or something else. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dog Sense. I'm your host, Kathy Santo, and I am joined by my co-host, Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Hey guys. All right. So topic for today is how to help your dog love visiting the vet.
Now, they might not, or maybe you have a puppy who you haven't started with this yet, but it is a subject near and dear to our hearts because we have students tell us how terrified their dogs are and how much their puppies disliked it on the first vet visit. And we can give you a lot of tips to help prevent that. And my daughter is going to vet school, so she would really like her patients to love seeing her and not have dogs who are scared, and owners too. So Sarah, I think it's worth talking about the current state of vet visits, because remember when it used to be we could walk in the vet office and sit on the chairs and wait, but that's not the case anymore. Now what's happening is you're in your car and a lot of times you're texting in and they're getting your dog and taking it in and it's sort of happening without you. So here's two things that I want people to know. Number one, I need you to work on body handling with your puppy and dog. Preferably it's feeding the dog and touching the dog and teaching the dog. There's a lot of value in you touching them. And we probably can do a whole episode on that. The second is I would love it if that could happen on an elevated surface. So if it's a small dog on leash, right? Leash around your shoulders, dog is up like on a show table, do a couple things and put them down. Bigger dogs, you need a grooming table or something else. But Sarah, I think the piece that people don't think about with that is other people handling the dog, right?
Exactly.
So they have to teach another person to handle their dog so the dog is not freaked out when it's a vet tech. Now, the next thing is leash walking. So your dog may not be so good on leash, but you're going to work on that. And once you get it, then start having somebody take the dog on a leash and walk away from you, because this happens. And I saw it this morning. I dropped my dog off at the vet and I saw somebody get out of the car, hand their dog's leash to the tech, and the tech started walking and that dog was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going with you, and dragged her back to the car.
Yep.
So these are two things you can do to help minimize your dog's stress and the tech stress and the vet stress. All right. What else can we do, Sarah? What happens when you can go into the office?
Yeah. So a couple other things. So you can talk to your vet about bringing your dog in for a few quick visits, right? So what that looks like is you can call ahead, say, hey, listen, I have a new puppy or a new dog. We just want to practice coming into the vet's office, maybe do some quick little training games, some sits, some downs, some spins, maybe just hanging out, practicing settling, being calm, sitting next to one of the chairs, and then leave again, right? So this is to help practice your dog getting used to the new environment, and also so that they don't always associate walking into the vet with some kind of negative, right? Getting shots, getting an exam done, anything like that, right? You don't want them to always associate that with when they go into the vet. And again, so you're going to spend a few minutes in the reception area. You can head out. You can come in and out again a few times as well. Make sure that you know your dog's kind of threshold. If they're getting a little bit too stressed out, maybe you need to go outside, take a break, and then come back in again.
You know what I use? That scale, Sarah. I love the scale because I use it as place. And whether my dog is fearful or just has never been, I'll get some stew meat or some chicken. The vet says, absolutely come in. And then I'll use that as go to place. Now, I've had dogs who are like, oh, what is that scale thing? So then I bring a towel from home that they're used to going to place on, or a yoga mat. And they're like, oh, hey, I know this thing. I don't remember it, but it has my scent on it. So those are things you can do. Playing games, doing spin, hand targets, like whatever you have in your training bag arsenal to use to make your dog feel comfortable and successful and earn valuable food rewards.
Yeah. And also, so next thing too, is when you go in there, if you can maybe ask the reception team, or maybe there's a vet tech around who can help, have them feed the dog as well, right? So that your dog also learns, hey, it's not just mom who gives me awesome treats in this new environment. These awesome people in the scrubs do as well. Cool. But you could also say, hey, do you guys have an empty exam room that we can practice going into? And what's also really important is when you go in those exam rooms, try to practice the things that you might actually have to do. Maybe it's lifting him up on the exam table. Maybe it's practice your line up in case you need to do a blood draw. Practice some body handling in there as well. Try to make it as realistic of a training scenario as you can so the dog has some practice working on those things in that environment. And the goal is to keep doing these little sessions until your dog gets to that vet's office and they are pumped, right? They are like, again, we want you to practice our loose leash walk, but we also want you to see that the dog is excited. They want to go in the office, right? That they're not pulling the opposite direction. They're not fearful or anything like that when you get to the vet's office.
Now, I'm a competition obedience person, so God forbid I ever told you to give my dog a formal command. That would never happen. Like set up or retrieving, like I don't want to mess it up. I don't want you to give the wrong cues, right? However, this is why I teach those little, I call them garbage, but they're really not, like little garbage tricks, like spin and back up and high five and sit pretty, right? I don't mind what happens to those if somebody repeats the command or reinforces it poorly, because I'm never going to compete with that. So I will let the text do spin. I'll even let them point to the scale and say place. And my dog is like, wow, everybody knows these tricks. And it's so fun because they love me and I'm doing it right and I'm succeeding. The other thing I would say is vets now, at least our vet, they have hydraulic tables. So gone are the days, at least at the clinic I'm at, where they have to hoist the dog up, God forbid it's the St. Bernard, and put him on a big old table. So they need 5 people to get that sucker up there. So now you get the dog on the table and it moves. So there's 2 issues there. One, the sound of the hydraulics, right? So your dog might spook at that sound, but your dog also might not be used to being on something that remotely moves. Yeah. So you have to get those things. And listen, the goal isn't pop your dog on it, make it move all the way up and feed him, right? You may have to make it move an inch and then give him a cookie and bring it down and get him off. So incremental learning is the way to go so that you have a dog with a long-lasting positive effect. But sometimes things don't always go the way you want them. And we say leave on a positive note. And so that, let's say it was that hydraulic table that did spook your dog. And he was like, holy hell, what's that? I don't want to run out of the office. I'm going to find a spot to take him, maybe do some spins, some backup. I'll even sit on the floor in the hallway and let him chew a bone to get those endorphins going, to get them to reset, to get them to drain that bucket from the stressful event. And if you don't know what that means, we have a podcast on that, because I want him to give me a sign, like a shake off or a deep breath that tell me he's moved into a calmer state. And then I want to leave. I don't want to flee with him in a high state of upsetness or fear, because that's just not going to give him a good lasting impression of where he just was.
Yeah. And on that note too, if you do have a dog who you know is extremely fearful, you're going to need to do this a lot more slowly, and you do have a little bit more work ahead of you. So if you have a dog who you already know they're really fearful in new environments, that kind of thing, you might want to consider grabbing their meals and going into the office a few times a week. And for that dog, maybe you're literally just walking in there, you're hand feeding the dog while you're in the office, and then you're leaving. You have to kind of know your dog and know what they can handle. But if they are extremely fearful, you need to go way more slowly with these steps.
Yep. And I would journal this too. If I had a dog, I was working this through, I'd start a little notebook and I'd be like, what I did today, what I did on Wednesday, just so I could see the progress, because sometimes the progress is so small, you don't realize it happens, but it has. You get frustrated, you get overwhelmed, you're like, it's not taking too long. It's not what I want it to be. But if you look at the steps, if you look back 2 weeks ago, you'll see how much better it is.
And also on your whole training journey with your dog, maybe this is one of those first new environments that you're going to. Once you kind of figure out what worked for them, you can then take this for other places as well. So maybe if your dog has to go to the groomer, maybe if you go to, take your dog to Home Depot or you go to different parks and stuff, you can kind of learn what's going to work for your dog so that you can use these kind of tips and tricks no matter where you're going with your dog when they're visiting a new space.
And sometimes the first point of stress for the dog is getting out of the car, especially if your dog doesn't like car rides. So I wouldn't even start with going in the vet office. I'd get the dog out in the parking lot, play tug, feed him. Maybe I'd go there and give him dinner and use it for training, and then get him back in the car and go home. So you can customize this to your unique dog to make sure you get the success that you want. So your dog has low stress. And like I said, you need that low stress too. And so does your vet and their tech.
All right, guys, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would like, rate, subscribe, tell a friend, share this episode somewhere. Our goal is to continue creating an awesome community of dog lovers and learners. All right, guys, so thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.